my name is Lydia and welcome to my channel. Today I'm doing a video about 10 books on Goodreads that I've rated 5 stars that have an average rating of under 3.6, which is what I would count as like a bad rating. To be honest, if I'm going into a bookshop and I am unsure about a book, I will check the rating on Goodreads and a few of the reviews, and if it's under like 3.8, chances are I'll stay away. But this is proof to myself that I shouldn't do that, because I found 10 books that have pretty low ratings on Goodreads. So these ones range from 3.26 to 3.57, I think, and they're all books that I've given 5 stars. Do those reviews hold up? Not sure, but I'm going to go through these books with you. So the first one I'm going to talk about is True Story by Kate Reid Petty. This gets 3.57 on Goodreads, and I powered through this book. I think I read it in one night and I gave it 5 stars. So you might have seen this book around. It's the one that has 4 different covers that you could have got, I think maybe from Goldsboro or somewhere. I just got the Waterstones edition, which had all the 4 covers on the cover, and it was like, choose your cover based on what you want the book to be, because it's quite a few genres mashed together. So it's like, you could see it as like women's fiction or literary fiction or a mystery. I really enjoyed this book. I think the best thing about it was that it was all sorts of different formats. So there were college transcripts and college applications. Different chapters were written in different ways. So it was like a mashup. And I think that's probably why a lot of people have rated it low. But for me, that's what made it a 5 star. I can't fully remember what it's about, but that's not what matters here. What matters here is whether, when I think about it, it's still a 5 star in my head. And it still is. I really enjoyed it. It's on my favourite shelf, and I can totally see myself picking it up again to give another go. I think the 5 star holds in this place. If I remember a book fondly and I think, yeah, that was really good and that had a great ending and that kept me hooked the whole way through, I'm not gonna fuss about the rating. That's a 5 star to me. The next one is Bonfire by Kristen Ritter, which has 3.57 as well on Goodreads. So Kristen Ritter is an actress who I know from The Bee in Apartment 23, I think it's called, something like that. And she was also in a Marvel show or like a Netflix superhero special, Jessica Jones, I can't remember. But this was a sort of mystery thriller. I think it was set in quite a rural American location, and I read this ebook while I was on a train across Canada, so it was my only entertainment, and I loved it. I don't remember much about it now, and it's one of those, looking back on, that I don't think it really was worth 5 stars. It was like quite a trashy thriller, so the 5 stars for me was very much like, this is what I had to read in this moment in time, and I really enjoyed it. Is the writing the best? Probably not. Is the plot the best? Probably not. But it kept me entertained. So I think this was very much like a 5 stars for entertainment rather than anything else. The next one is Stags by M.A. Bennett, which has 3.54 on Goodreads. This is an easy 5 star from me, and one that I know holds up as a 5 star for me. I've read all 4 books that are currently out in this series. The first 3 are phenomenal, easy 5 stars. I hated the 4th book, but it doesn't really match the rest of the series, so I'm thinking the 5th will be fine. But yeah, Stags is fantastic. Really enjoyed it. It's got that dark boarding school setting. It's got the sort of clash of the classes, because the protagonist is a working class girl who has a scholarship to this incredible academy, and she sort of befriends the like upper class people who go hunting for fun and have butlers and things. But they have a group that hunts a student each year, or a group of students, and it's so tense, it's so thrilling, and there's so much sort of history woven into the book that I really enjoyed, and I could tell that the author had immaculately planned and researched, and it was just a fantastic read. That easily holds up as a 5 star, no question about it. Number 4 is Waste of Space by Gina D'Amico, which gets 3.49 on Goodreads. I have like vague memories of reading this book. I know I can picture the cover perfectly. It's I'm pretty sure it's about a group of teens who go on this space mission, but they don't know that it's actually just in a warehouse and it's for a reality TV show or something. So I'm a hoe for reality TV shows in book plots. That's one of my favourite tropes, like, of all time. So I will always, that will skew my rating probably. I remember having a fun time when I read this book, but I don't think it really holds up as a 5-star in retrospect. It hasn't left a lasting impression. The writing wasn't great, it was just entertaining. So clearly I was in a good mood when I read this and Bonfire, because I don't usually give 5 stars if everything isn't great. The next one is Haven't They Grown by Sophie Hannah, which has 3.48 on Goodreads. I love Sophie Hannah. I have devoured all of her books that aren't the Agatha Christie ones, and for the most part they've been incredible books that have blown my mind. She's one of those writers who you can tell she's incredibly clever and has thought this out so well, and sometimes the plots do go over my head a bit and I get lost in the mystery, but not in like this is badly written, in like I have missed something along the way because this is incredibly clever and I'm just not smart enough to put it together. I would say though that I remember when I was reading Haven't They Grown, which is, it's about a woman who sees her friend and their children, but their children are the same age they were like 10 years ago, and she gets wrapped up in this mystery and nobody believes her, which is like a staple of mysteries, is a woman not being believed, which I kind of hate. But I remember reading at the time that it wasn't my favourite of Sophie Hannah's books, and I so desperately wanted it to be a 5-star, but when I'm reading through my review, like, I haven't reviewed most of these, I'm terrible at Goodreads, I just rate and most of the time don't even say anything. I was reading through the review that I did do for this one and it sounded more like a 3.5. I gave it 4.5 and rounded up because I wanted it to be 5-star because it was such an anticipated read and because I always love Sophie Hannah. But no, this one doesn't stand the test of time. I just remember thinking it was okay when I read it. It didn't blow me away like her others have in the past. The next one is 7 Lies by Elizabeth Key, which has 3.38 on Goodreads, and I can't really remember this one. I'm pretty sure it involves a woman babysitting her friend's child and there's a baby monitor involved. This one doesn't stand the 5-star test because I literally can't remember what happened in it. I remember it being quite twisty and I think the ending was quite twisted. I think the protagonist is quite dodgy. Yeah, this is not a 5-star read. I can't remember why I rated it 5 stars. Might have been entertaining, but I can't even remember that. I just cannot tell you much about this book at all. The next one is Jane Unlimited by Kristen Cashaw, which has 3.38 as well on Goodreads. I loved this book. I absolutely devoured it. I would still give it a 5 stars, although probably it's more like a 4.5 rounded up because the ending wasn't the strongest, but all the way through I loved the book. I loved all the scenarios. I loved just hearing about this house, this crazy house, and I loved the protagonist, and there was queer rep, and it was just such an entertaining read. I don't understand why it has such a low rating on Goodreads. It was so good. I remember just lying out in the garden and devouring it, and it was such a fun romp, and it worked so well, and the house reminded me of like a Cluedo house, and I would read this one again, so that's an easy mark of a 5-star for me. The next one is All of This Is True by Ligia de Penaflor. I love this book. This has been on my favourite shelf for a while. I think I read it maybe 3 years ago. It blew me away when I read it and I still think about it sometimes. I really enjoyed it. I think the main reason that I loved it so much was because it's this twisty thriller with a book within a book. So this group of teens absolutely worship this author, and we see the book she's writing as well as the book that is about these teens, and it's twisty and it's hard to follow, and it was just so good. And I think a lot of people don't like the book within a book thing, or they didn't like the characters, but like they're not meant to be likeable characters. They are, I don't think any of them were. They all do terrible things, but I was just absolutely hooked. I mean, it helps that I read this while I was waiting in hospital for like 2 or 3 hours, so I got through quite a lot of it then, and it distracted me, but this was great, and this definitely stands up. I still think about it now, and it's been years, and I would love to read it again someday. So this one should not be rated so low on Goodreads at all. So just 2 books left to go now, and the next one is Did You See Melody, also by Sophie Hannah. This has 3.33 on Goodreads, and this is a Sophie Hannah that did blow me away. This is one that definitely stands the 5-star test because I've recommended it to people since I read it. I think I was on a plane reading it, so it was like, I don't have anything to do but read, so I'm going to immerse myself in this story, and I absolutely loved it. It is a twisty thriller mystery about this woman who goes on a spa trip, and I think she sees a missing child. I'll be honest, I can't fully remember the plot because often with mystery and thrillers I do forget what I've read, but I remember like the vibes it left me with and how it made me feel, and this one had me hooked, and I remember being shocked by the ending. And for a mystery or thriller to shock me with an ending is very impressive, because I am so hard to shock or surprise. That's just how my brain works. I will, as I'm reading, it's going through every possible scenario and outcome of this book, and invariably one of them ends up being correct, and I'm like, oh, well, that's predictable. And it's like, no, most people probably don't subconsciously try to solve a mystery every time they're reading a mystery. I wish I didn't. That would be so much easier. I remember really enjoying it. The ending was fantastic, and it was quite a short book. It had me hooked. I think I probably read it in one sitting. Final one, and the lowest rated on Goodreads, is The Island by M.A. Bennett with 3.26 on Goodreads, which to me is like an atrocious rating, but this is a 5-star, and I will stand by that 5-star. I remember lying in the garden in summer and reading this, and I knew what was going on, and I was like, okay, this is going to be really predictable. It's so obvious that this is what's happened, but then like 100 pages in, that's revealed anyway, so it's like, oh, there's a new mystery going on. So I love when a book does that. Like, I know what's happening next, but then it happens so much sooner, and you know, oh shit, there's going to be something else. This one is about a group of teenagers who wake up. I think they're going to a conference or something, and then they wake up and they've crashed on an island, and it's all very mysterious because they're all like unharmed, but the plane is a wreck, and it's like a retelling of Lord of the Flies but more modern, and I really enjoyed this. It was such a fun romp. It was a great mystery with great twists and turns, and it just kept me absolutely hooked. So this is a 5-star for entertainment and for plot. I love all of M.A. Bennett's books except for her latest. They have all been 5 stars, so this was no exception, and it's the only standalone that she's done. I would like to see more standalones from her, because she's got the 5 books in the Stag series. The 5th one hasn't come out yet, and then she's got The Island, and I would love to see more of these one and done mysteries from her. That one definitely still a 5-star from me, and another one that I would reread. I stand by a lot of these books. I think of the 10, there are 6 that I would say definitely still deserve their 5 stars. So they are All of This Is True, Stags, The Island, Jane Unlimited, True Story, and Did You See Melody. Those are all great books in my opinion. Also, 4 of those that I would still rate 5 stars are the 4 lowest that I've read. So they are all 3.38 and below. They range from 3.26 to 3.38. So these are all really low average ratings on Goodreads, and normally I would not touch a book with a barge pole if I saw that it had that rating, but they're books that I picked up not knowing the rating, and that just proves that Goodreads is not everything, and I put far too much trust in it when I'm deciding whether or not to read a book. I should probably just go off the vibes I get from it. There are 4 that I don't think stand the test of time, and I wouldn't retrospectively rate them 5 stars, and they are Haven't They Grown, 7 Lies, Bonfire, and Waste of Space. I think they were probably entertaining at the time, but looking back on it, they weren't up to scratch. They were definitely not on a par with the other 5 stars that I've read. Obviously, there's a lot of movement within my 5-star ratings. Sometimes it is just because a book amused me, and sometimes it's because it was like profoundly life-changing. So if I went through everything I rated 5 stars, there is a vast difference in like quality of writing, quality of plot, type of story. I find it very hard to rate with any sort of consistency, and some genres just, they have different criteria for me to make it a 5 star. So there we have it. 10 books that I rated 5 stars that Goodreads rates 3.5 and under, and 6 of them I would still keep. So there we have it. If you've read any of these books, I would love to hear what you thought of them, so if you could let me know down below. And if you like and subscribe for more, I would love to see you in the next one.